I'm Pamela White, and I'll moderate this, but you people are the experts. You've been through this. You're the ones that have had how many journeys, Valerie?
3.
3.
Yes.
And you're from the U.S.?
Yes.
Okay.
We're based out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay. And Nadine?
I've had 3 surrogacy journeys, and I'm in Canada.
Okay. Well, I feel overwhelmed by the experience that I have here on this panel with me. So really what I'd like to do today is for you to tell us about your surrogacy journeys. How the first ones may have differed from your second one or your third ones. And really tell us about the experience, your relationship with your intended parents, and the highs and lows of going through this process. So, Valerie, would you like to start?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you. So, start with the overall process.
Start with your first journey. Maybe.
Sure. So my first journey was actually so it started in 2016, and he was born in 2017. So he's almost 5, which seems really fast. It was actually for a same-sex couple, an international same-sex couple. We were fortunate to click right away, personality-wise, so we really got along from the start. I was actually only going to do surrogacy once, and they wanted a second child, so I ended up doing my second surrogacy for them in 2018, and he was born in the beginning of 2019. So great relationship overall, great communication. We really got along. I was actually supposed to visit them in March of 2020, and then the world shut down, and so I have not been able to. But fortunately, they are actually here in London visiting other families, so I will get to see them tomorrow. So we do keep in touch still.
And your third journey?
My third journey was for a single intended parent, international as well. That one we do get along great as well. I would say the only difference there between a couple and a single dad is he's a lot busier with his child than when they had 2 parents that can handle. But we still talk often. He actually stayed in the States because that baby was born during COVID. So he stayed in the States for the first year of his life, and then I got to see him regularly as he stayed very close to me. So it was a great relationship as well.
Thank you so much, Valerie. We've seen the pre-COVID, during COVID, yes. the journey with the same couple, and another one. So, fascinating. Nadine.
So mine is actually very similar to Valerie's. So I only thought I was going to be doing one. I was a one and done type of surrogate, and then my same-sex couple actually wanted another child, so I went on to carry for them again. So they were very close together, so they were a year and 4 days apart. And then I took a little break, and then I went on to carry for another same-sex couple through COVID. So I did go on and carry for them. My intended parents are actually very, very close. So both couples are very, very close together, which is really nice to see that relationship aspect. I see my couples and the surrogate babies quite often. They live very, very close to me. In the relationship aspect throughout the journeys, the first journey to the second journey, even though it was with the same couple, was just as great. And I'm sure that Valerie can kind of attest to that as well. And then my last couple as well, really closing my surrogacy circle. It was such a healing journey, as well as it's really surreal to believe that you've given someone the opportunity to experience all the highs and lows of surrogacy and parenting. It's really humbling to be going through a surrogacy journey just in general.
Well, I'd like to start with how it was that you started this surrogacy journey. What motivated you at the beginning?
So I'm very big on Google, so I will take a subject and then I will just research it. I came across surrogacy actually from a television show, and I just wanted to know more about it. So I really, really researched, found out all the information about it, and then realized that my pregnancy with my son was really easy. So I kind of thought, okay, if I could help somebody become a parent while still living my life fairly normally, why would I not do that? So I just was really called to help somebody become a parent, especially after having my son and knowing what it's like to be a parent and seeing the highs and the lows of parenting. I just really wanted to give somebody else that and know that I could help somebody experience that same stuff that I was seeing with my son.
So I am a teen mom. I had my son when I was 17. So right from the get-go, I had an alternative way of making my family or starting my family. As soon as I had my son, my eyes opened up to how many people are experiencing infertility, and it was just a natural route for me to look into how I can help, either through egg donation or surrogacy. And I knew I was too young to do surrogacy as well as egg donation, so that's when my research started there. And then when I was of age to do surrogacy, it just, Facebook knows, and it just kind of popped up, and that's all I saw. So I continued to research. And then one day I was like, why am I still researching? Why am I just not jumping into it? So I jumped into it, and honestly, when I say it's changed my life, we were actually just talking about this before the panel, it has changed my life in such a different trajectory. It has done so much good. And honestly, as soon as I filled out that first application, as soon as I met my first intended parents, the rest is history. And that was really my motivation, to provide the opportunity for someone who is not previously able to have a child or envision themselves having a child, to give them that opportunity and to experience the highs and lows of parenting, because not all of it is fun. Some of it is challenging, but it is so worth it. And again, my son and my stepson have always been my motivation to move forward. And then again, we're talking about egg donation. That's how I went into egg donation as well.
Okay. So Nadine, you've been an egg donor as well as a surrogate.
Yeah, so I've done
Yes.
three surrogacies, and then I'm on my 6th egg donation right now.
Okay. And Valerie, have you been an egg donor as well?
No, I have not, just surrogate.
Okay. And have you noticed your motivation for being an egg donor is similar to being a surrogate as well, Nadine?
Yes, so I am a known donor. So I do speak with my recipients quite often, and it's the same relationship, leaving the communication up to the intended parents, even though it is known, but they do still have my contact information if they would like to reach out to me or anything like that, or maintain the relationship.
Both of you have spoken about your relationship with your intended parents, with the whether it's the surrogate or the donor. I mean, as a surrogate or as an egg donor. What has been your relationship, and how is that relationship with the intended parents, and perhaps with your families and your friends? What have you needed from them in terms of the kind of supportive relationship, or to take you through your journey?
So you mean like my support system?
Yes, your support system.
So right from the get-go, I am originally from South Africa, so my parents are very more narrow-minded in regard to that aspect. So it took a little bit of education surrounding what I was doing, what it exactly entailed, and I was single at the time, so it came from a very different background. So I approached the first 2 surrogacy journeys by myself with my son, which was incredible. He was 5 at the time, and it was such a learning experience for him that it really made it a little bit more worthwhile for doing that, because it is a learning experience. And then throughout those 2 journeys, as well as my last one, so I did my first 2 journeys single, and then my last one, I had a partner. And it was really, really nice to experience both aspects of things. By myself, it was just myself and my son receiving that support. And then I was also receiving support from my partner when I did my 3rd journey. So it was a unique kind of experience, but it was very, very supportive. Obviously, everyone wants to congratulate you and say, you're doing this great thing, but that's not what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it for intended parents just like you. That's what I'm doing to make a difference. I'm not doing it for the praise. I'm not doing it for here, let me put you on a pedestal. And I'm sure that Valerie can say the same thing. You're doing it to make a difference. And that's really what surrogacy is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So in a similar aspect, I found that the support, like from my mother, she was a little more closed-minded, but it just took education, because it was more so, is that my biological grandchild? No, that's not your biological grandchild. So once she was educated, she was on board. And I had my husband with me all journeys, so he was super supportive. He was helping out with anything I needed. He would help out with the kids. He would do all of that. Lucky for him, I was very easy as a pregnant woman, so I did not make him, go for any late night runs or anything like that. But he actually, he was there for delivery as well as the intended parents. And he was so supportive that all the nurses were giving him compliments, and I was like, but I just did the work. But yeah, he was great. But I mean, other than that, I find that a lot of, like more younger generation will be ultimately readily supportive because surrogacy is more talked about and it is more known. But through education, everybody who may have a misconception about it has easily come around to surrogacy, and it's great. So, but yeah, I've had a great support system from the start, and I always joke and tell people that the first time I did it, I bought a book for my kids. I went through the process and did all of that, and they're all 3 boys. By the second and third journey, I don't even think they knew I was pregnant. I think they just put it out of their mind, and they had no questions for me. But yeah, it's been great.
So in terms of the support system, was that fundamental for you as you went through that journey, not only from the intended parents, of course, but from your family and friends? In terms of, those that may have been resistant or had second thoughts about it, what did you do, in a sense, to sort of help them come to understand the motivation that you had and the the altruistic aspects of that that were so important to you?
It doesn't matter. I think it just all comes to the education aspect and talking about it, because surrogacy is primarily, it has been a taboo subject to begin with. So egg donation and surrogacy has been a hush-hush, but it's becoming talked about, and talking about it has really made the difference. So I know countless times I've been pregnant and I've been walking in the grocery store, they're like, oh, congratulations. I'm like, thank you, but it's not mine. And making that, that always starts a conversation in itself. But I will educate as much as possible. I would talk about it. I will continue to talk about it because, number one, it is my passion, but also to enrich the lives of other people, because you never know if I said something or Valerie says something that who does it touch, and who does it impact the lives of, because that person's sister possibly may be going through infertility herself, and surrogacy might not have been an option for them, and they didn't know about it. So me saying something instantly changes someone's life. Just maybe, but in saying that, I think it's just the talking and the conversation that really makes the difference.
Yes, absolutely. I will mirror that. It's education. I think that having a support system is fundamental for a surrogate, whether that's intended parents or her own support system. So creating that education to where people can come around to seeing the benefits of surrogacy is a great thing, and it's definitely needed. Because, like you said, you have a lot of, there's a lot that goes into being a surrogate. It's not just, oh, I'm going to sign up and now I'm pregnant. There's a lot that goes into it. And so sometimes you may need that help from that support system. But yeah, I do get the congratulations on your pregnancy, or
it's not
or my children will get the, are you going to be a big brother? And I'm like, no, they're not. So, but yeah, it's definitely key to have that support.
And it's also you talking about it, your children start to talk about it. And my son is 12 years old now, but when he was younger, he's like, oh, my mom has babies for other people and makes families. I'm like, that's great, but let's actually talk about how that happens. So it does talk, and it doesn't matter how young they are, they know that door is open to start talking about it. So it does really start young, even though we're making an impact, our children are also going on to hopefully be decent human being and help the family as well and help grow families as well. So
absolutely, yes. I've had my children tell people that I get pregnant as my career, and I'm like, that's not my career. but yes, so they do talk about it as well.
So for those in the audience that are looking to have a surrogate deliver their child for them, and what do you think are the qualities of it that a surrogate needs to have?
So I would say that ultimately it's going to be about connection with your surrogate. You want somebody who's going to be responsible. There is a lot of appointments, there is a lot of paperwork, there is a lot to do with surrogacy. And so having somebody who is responsible, who is on top of things, that's going to be key in getting through this lengthy process. But other than that, you want to have that connection with this person, and that's kind of hard to sometimes to put into words for intended parents, is because she may look great on paper, but if you don't find that connection with her when you speak to her, then that could change your journey. So it's really just having somebody who's responsible, who's friendly, who you feel connected with, and somebody that you trust, knowing that your baby is being carried safely, and she's being healthy, and baby's going to come into the world healthy and safe.
Yeah, so working on that, definitely emotionally, physically, mentally capable of going through for a surrogacy. Obviously, those are requirements through your clinic that you're working with, but also that connection piece. If you expect your surrogacy journey to go a certain way in regards to communication and relationship, make sure that your surrogate shares those same values, because it's obviously not going to be beneficial if you want to have lots of communication throughout the before pregnancy, during pregnancy, and postpartum, but possibly your surrogate doesn't want that, and I would hate for that to create animosity between that, and then your surrogacy journey it's got a lot more impact on that rather than just having a smooth, easygoing transition.
We're almost out of time, but I do want to. We never hear from these non-English speaking surrogates, so I'm just going to play a short 5-minute interview with a surrogate from Georgia, which I think will be fascinating for a lot of us because we never hear from these women. Just to have a look at, and then I might get you guys to comment a bit at the end as well about what she's saying about why she carries and so forth. So let's just have a little look at it, see if it comes up here. Oops, I'm not worried about sound. So here it comes.
Megi მოგესალმები, გვიან ბეშენს შესახებ, სახელი გვარი ასაკის
subtitles.
რამდენი შვილი ყავს და ასე შემდეგ.
გამარჯობათ, მე ვარ მეგი სირგინავა, 23 წლის. ქალაქ თბილისში ვცხოვრობ, ერთი შვილი მყავს, 3 წლის ბიჭი. ჩემთვის მეორე სუროგაცი არის. პირველიც ტყუპები იყვნენ, ეხაც ტყუპები მყავს.
რატომ გადაწყვეტეთ გამختარიყავით სუროგატი დედა?
როცა მყავს საკუთარი შვილი და იცის რა ბედნიერება არის, ასევე დადებითად უნდა იყო განწყობილი იმის მიმართ, რომ სხვასაც დაეხმარო, თუ ამის შესაძლებლობა გაქვს, როცა მათთვის ეს ბოლო შანსი არის, რა თქმა უნდა, შენს ფინანსურ მდგომარეობასაც იუმჯობესებ და ეს ორმხრივი არის.
როგორ გაიგე სააგენტო ბიფერენტის შესახებ?
ახლა მეგობარი მყავს, რომელიც ამ სააგენტოს სუროგატი იყო და ძალიან დადებითად ახასიათებდა როგორც სააგენტოს, ასევე კლინიკას, ექიმებს და მაინც გადავიწონი იმისკენ, რომ მოვსულიყავი და მქონოდა დობით ახსავსე გუნდთან ურთიერთობა მთელი 9 თვის განმავლობაში, ვიდრე ეგრევე პირადად ვიღაცასთან უშუალოდ სააგენტოს გარეშე.
მოდი მოგვიყევი შენი ფეხმძიმობის გამოცდილების შესახებ. როგორ განვითარდა მოვლენები ამ 9 თვის განმავლობაში, როგორ გრძნობ თავს და როგორ ემზადები უკვე მშობიარობისთვის?
მშობიარობის თვითონ ფეხმძიმობისთვის ემზადებოდი სადღაც თვიდან 2 თვემდე დაახლოებით. პროცესი იყო მაქსიმალურად მარტივი და ზრუნველი, ანუ ყველანაირად ზრუნავდნენ ჩემზე, როგორც ჯანმრთელობაზე, ასევე ფსიქოლოგიურ მდგომარეობაზე, მაქცევდნენ ძალიან კარგ ყურადღებას. რა ვიცი, ფეხმძიმობაც შედარებით კარგი მაქვს, ტყუპები მყავს და რა მალე ველოდებით უკვე, სადაცაა დღე-დღეზე. იმიტომ არ გამჭირვებია დიდად, შეგითხრათ.
ზოგადად ემოციურ ფაქტორს რო შევეხოთ, გავრცელებული არის ინფორმაცია, რომ როდესაც ბავშვი ჩნდება სუროგაციის გზით, ბავშვს არ ანახებენ სუროგატ დედას და ის გადაყავთ სპეციალურ იზოლირებულ პალატაში. თქვენ როგორი დამოკიდებულება გაქვთ ზოგადად ამ ფაქტის მიმართ და თვლით თუ არა, რომ ეს ასე ვთქვათ, ეხმარება სუროგატ დედას ემოციების
გაკონტროლებაში. მე ვფიქრობ, რომ ეს ინდივიდუალურია როგორც სუროგატისთვის, ასევე წყვილისთვის. მე პირადად პირველ სუროგაციაზე მქონდა ბავშვებთან კონტაქტი მშობიარობის მერე. იმ დროის განმავლობაში საავადმყოფოში რაც ვიწვევი, სამშობიაროში რაც ვიყავი, თვითონ შევდიოდი მათი სურვილიც იყო მშობლების და ჩემიც, მეც უფრო ასე მშვიდად ვიყავი. არ გამჭირვებია, იმიტომ რომ მზად ვიყავი ფსიქოლოგიურად ამ ფაქტისთვის, რომ ისინი გენეტიკურად არანაირი ჩემები არ არიან, მაგრამ რა ვიცი, მაინც სიამოვნებდა რა, ვიცოდი რომ კარგად იყვნენ და სანდო ხელში იყვნენ, ამიტომ პრობლემა არ მქონია. ეს არის ინდივიდუალური და თუ მშობელსაც აქვს ამის მიმართ მოთხოვნა, რომ სუროგატი ნახოს ბავშვი ან ბავშვები, მე მგონი, რა ვიცი, პრობლემა არ უნდა იყოს. სუროგატის მხრიდანაც. თუ აქ ამის სურვილი მასაც. მე პირადად მქონდა და რაც შემეძლო გავაკეთე.
რას ურჩევდი ახალგაზრდა გოგონებს, რომლებიც ეხლა გეგმავენ სუროგაციის პროგრამაში მონაწილეობის მიღებას? როგორ უნდა გაუმკლავდნენ ამ ყველაფერს და რა ფსიქოლოგიური თუ ზოგადი ფაქტორები უნდა გაითვალისწინონ?
მეტი პასუხისმგებლობით მოეკიდონ ამ საკითხს, როგორც თვითონ 9 თვის განმავლობაში, ისევე სააგენტოს რჩევებსაც, ექიმის რეკომენდაციებს, მაქსიმალურად ეცადონ მეტი კავშირი ქონდეთ სააგენტოსთან და ექიმთან, თუ რამე დასჭირდა, რა თქმა უნდა, იმ შემთხვევაში გულისხმობ. ჩემი გამოცდილებიდან პირადად ყოველ კვირა მოდიოდა ექთანი, აკონტროლებდა ყველა ჩემს მდგომარეობას, ჯანმრთელობას, თუ რამე მჭირდებოდა ნებისმიერ დროს, დღის ნებისმიერ მონაკვეთში მეხმარებოდნენ, როგორც სააგენტო, ასევე ექიმი და მეტი კონტაქტის შემთხვევაში ვფიქრობ, რომ ეს უკეთესი არის და ამარტივებს ორსულობის პროცესს, როგორც მშობლებისთვის, სააგენტოსთვის, ასევე სუროგატისთვის. 100% დაცვალად გრძნობდი ბიფერენტის გუნდთან ერთად მთელი ამ 9 თვის განმავლობაში. ეს ძალიან მნიშვნელოვანია სუროგატისთვის, როგორც ფსიქოლოგიურად, ასევე ფიზიკურად, როცა იცი, რომ შენზე ზრუნავენ. და რა ვიცი, თუ კიდევ ვიფიქრებ, რა თქმა უნდა, ისევ ამ გუნდთან ვითანამშრომლებ.
და ბოლო კითხვა არის ეს ზუსტად აპირებთ თუ არა კიდევ ერთი წველი გააბედნიეროთ ახლო მომავალში ან მერე?
ალბათ რაღაც გარკვეული დროის მერე შესაძლებელია არის ამის პროცენტულობა დიდი, რომ კიდევ, მაგრამ ცოტა ხანი არა. რაღაც პაუზას ავიღებ.
Okay, look, I just want to ask you guys, that lady raised an interesting issue. Come back up here. About the fact that she wanted to go with an agency. You will all know that in the UK and the USA and Canada, you can do independent surrogacy without an agency. And it'd be good to get your views on what the benefits for you guys were of going through an agency rather than doing independent.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say for any first-time surrogate, you should absolutely go through an agency. There's a lot of intricacies with surrogacy, and if you try to take that independent role too quickly, you may be missing out on some things, or you could get taken advantage of as a surrogate. So it's I think it's very important to go with an agency the first round. Once you're a little more experienced, you can absolutely make that choice of independent or agency. I personally have gone with an agency each time just to have that extra support and to know that all of the boxes are being checked as they should be. And so I didn't have to be in charge of that or the intended parents. But yeah, I would definitely say, like I said, for a first-time surrogate, absolutely go agency, and then after that, you decide how comfortable you are with.
It's less stressful for you then, is it, as a...
Yes, absolutely less stressful as a surrogate going through the agency, because everything is kind of taken care of for you, and you know what to look for after that, so you can make sure it's being taken care of versus having to do that yourself.
Yeah, Nadine, you got any comments?
Yeah, very much the same thought process of Valerie's, but it's also surrogacy, as I said before, is considered somewhat of a taboo subject. So if you don't have support from your family and friends, if you have the support from your agency, like-minded individuals are doing the exact same thing as you. So there's that connection aspect. So the connection to other surrogates and fellow surrogates that are going through that process that can connect with you emotionally, physically, mentally, because they're doing the same thing. So I personally have done surrogacy, all my surrogacies through an agency, and I will, if I go to do it again, I will go through an agency as well.
Okay, so if a parent you cared for once said to you, oh, look, let's do it again with you, and you agreed, you still want to use an agency again, would you, even though it was a second time for the same couple?
Yeah, because you never know what that because pregnancy is unknown. So I can have a really horrible pregnancy, but then still have that support from the intended parents and my agency.
And I assume it's particularly important when it's an international context where the parents aren't physically there.
So I have carried for only couples that have been very close. That wasn't a requirement for me. It just so happened that I connected with those intended parents right from the beginning. So it was just I saw their profile and I instantly fell in love, and they just happened to live 15 minutes away from me and then 2 hours away from me. So I got very lucky, and that's not something that I necessarily was a must for me, but it definitely, I love seeing the surrogate babies. I love seeing my intended parents quite often. So that was, now I look back on it, I'm like, I'm so happy I did that.
Yeah. Valerie, I know you carried for a couple in New Zealand, a long way from you. Was that very hard given they were so far away?
It was, the main thing was the time difference, is trying to navigate that. Once we navigated that, it was a lot easier, and I'm horrible with time differences, so trying to figure that out. But with the first baby with them, it didn't become real for them until I was about 18 weeks pregnant and close to, doing the anatomy scan, and then they said, oh, there's a baby in there. And so at that point, it kind of, once it became real for them, the communication was a lot easier. But in the beginning, it was a little hard being a same-sex couple, being international. They didn't quite understand what pregnancy was and what it was like. And so once they kind of got on board and said, oh, there's an actual baby in there, it opened up a lot, and communication became way better. It was just easier to talk about from that point.
Yeah, that's great. Look, we're out of time, but thank you so much, guys. That was terrific. Really, really great. Yeah, really great.